All right, hello everybody. My name is Will Carpenter. Today I'm going to be pitching a game idea that hopefully I'd like to have some of you join me in working on over winter break and this coming semester. So here's the basic idea. A VR game where the main mechanic, the hook of sorts, is that you can slash items to bits, tiny bits and pieces. I'm thinking an arena-based sort of combat game, and with teleportation, movement, health, stamina, all of that stuff, with a big focus on doing the slicing and the sword fighting stuff. If any of you have played Vader Immortal, have done that sort of thing, the very basic combat in that, where an enemy can slice at you, you slice back, that sort of thing. So the main actions that a player will be taking in this game are with the left and right hand controllers, respectively. Left hand lets you teleport and grab, standard VR movements. And the right hand is where the unique stuff comes in, where you can have a sword and swing it. And if you hold up a sword, you can block an attack that an enemy might be making towards you. There are 4 basic enemy types that I've been thinking about. The first one is a dummy, so static tutorial. It's not going to do anything, and you can just slice away at it. A robot that is quite slow, very, robotic movements. And it sort of teaches you that they're going to rotate to block your attacks, and if you're fast enough, you can juke and get an attack in. A cyborg that's much faster than the robot, and so you have to either work harder to juke those attacks or hit their blade, make them block, and drain their endurance long enough to where they can't block you anymore. And then a person, which would be nearly identical to the cyborg, but slightly weaker. Maybe you'd face 1 or 2 of these, but overall not as strong of an opponent as the cyborg. So here's the basic gameplay loop. So you're going to start the game, you're going to pick a level or start a new game, you're going to drop into that arena against an opponent. You're going to start going in that sword combat, right? You're going to use up health getting hit, and you're going to use up stamina blocking attacks. And if you decide, oh, I'm low on resources, I need to go get more stuff, you can disengage combat and go around the arena, slicing up boxes and other things around the arena to pick up collectibles. And then once you want to again, you can re-engage in combat. Once you've defeated that enemy, you can enter a blade mode of sorts where the enemy will become sliceable, and you can do all of that fancy slicing. Oh my goodness. You can do all of that fancy slicing stuff and slice that enemy to bits. So here's the basic scope of the project. The minimum viable product to deliver on this idea would be all of the main mechanics as described in the actions that a player can take. The game flow as described a second ago, and at least one of the enemy types and stages. And then, as a stretch goal, I'd like to get all of the enemy types. I'd like to get multiple stages. And one big focus that I'd like to touch on, if possible, given the time, is a slight narrative. There's something in VR that's very interesting to me about when you have a sword, when you have things to sort of hit other people-like entities with in VR, there's almost like a carnal side of people that comes out, sort of a primal feeling. And I'd really like to try and push that to its brink and see what does it take to get someone to slice up another person to bits. So if the time permits, I'd love to explore that narratively. And then another cool thing in VR is the sense of scale. When you look at something huge, it really feels huge. So if there was a big sort of boss enemy that you could slice down to size, I think that'd be awesome, but obviously something to stretch for, not include in the minimum. These are the big challenges that I see. One big design challenge in the game feel, so trying to get sword fighting feeling good in VR and trying to get the main slicing feeling good in VR, that's going to be the most important thing since it's that hook, and it has to feel great. Other than that, the rest is big programming challenges. In the opponent AI, so it needs to be a somewhat basic AI that can sort between offensive and defensive, but it needs to be able to make intelligent decisions about when to attack, when to go on the defensive, and where to attack from if it's going to attack. So diving into the AI side of things is going to be one of the big programming challenges. And then another one is being able to slice up those humanoid meshes into tiny pieces. Right now it only works with convex shapes, so imagine like a sphere, a cube, a pyramid, anything that you can draw a line through it and result in two definitive shapes, that works great. Anything that's concave, think a donut, a bowl, anything like that where when you slice through it you don't have a definite number of shapes, that is going to, cause a little bit of confusion. So when you think about a complex sort of humanoid model, how exactly is that going to work? That's going to be one of the challenges. It's been done before in other games. There's some sort of trick to it, but the challenge is going to be figuring out what that is. I have a proposed timeline, a basic one. Starting out in winter break, I want to just hit the ground running. So this is, let's see, where are we now? We're right here. Next week is the second week of finals. Starting right here is where I'd want to start the project. And go hard that week, finish pre-production, ideally. Get all of the main ideas into conception stage and fill out the design doc, make sure it's all solid. Then proceeding from there, it's getting all of the main mechanics to alpha stage, the slicing, the opponent AI, player interactions with that AI, and then once we've ended winter break and classes have begun, the sprints are going to be longer and have smaller goals because people won't be able to work as much on the projects. After that, it's getting the remainder of the mechanics basically to alpha. And this is where the proposed timeline sort of ends, because at this point there's a decision to make on either getting all of the main mechanics to beta, which would mean a lot more solidly implemented and solidly having great looking art, or starting on the stretch goals and starting to get them to an alpha working stage. So that decision will be made there. So this is what I have for the pitch so far. I hope people are interested. Are there any questions about the project? Yes?
What engine are you using?
Well, I would like to do it in Unreal Engine. This demo, is that freaking out as bad on that screen as it is on this one? No? Okay. That demo, the one that I showed you at the very beginning, that was made in Unity. So we could work off of that, or Unreal Engine, I do know, has the ability to do mesh slicing, and I know it's possible. I don't want to cop out on the question, but really at this point, what I'd like to do is see who, depending on who all's interested in what they've worked in before, and what they're interested in learning, I'd rather make the decision at that point.
I think that's a smart decision.
What roles are you looking for? So what type of people? Programmers, artists?
Yeah, so I imagine I'd either be a full producer or lead programmer. Did we say that one person can do both? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think one person can take a producer role in something else.
Okay, so I'd really be looking for designers and artists, but I'd also like to take one more programmer, since so many of the big challenges were programming challenges. So yeah, big time. I would need at least one artist, one designer, and one programmer to hop on the team. Yeah.
What supported devices are you thinking of?
Well, I'd like to target Oculus Quest, because if we can get something simple-ish running on the Quest, then it would be easy enough to get it running on PC VR as well, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Which we have Quest units here, right?
Yeah,
so
we're going to have Quest 2s in the spring.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's what I'd really like to do, is get it running on a Quest or Quest 2, and then PC VR could follow from there. And we have the resources here that people could be able to develop with it. Go for it.
I guess just kind of a design question. You mentioned in the battles you can disengage to go look for materials. When you disengage, did you mean like you just kind of run away from the fight, or is it you actually can make the fighting stop while you go to gather?
I did mean more just kind of hopping away.
That's kind of what I figured. I just wanted to.
And part of the enemy AI, I think they'd also have to be able to chase you. I mean, depending on the enemy type, the dummy's not going to chase you. The robot maybe finalize that in pre-production, but the robot may or may not chase you as well. But as the enemies get tougher, they might hone in on you a little faster and make that collectible grabbing a little more difficult. But that had to be balanced with the teleportation movement too, because if you could just teleport and the enemy can't, then I don't know if that works. But that had to be workshopped a little bit.
All right, well, thank you, Will.
Thank you.